I spent this bank holiday weekend alcohol-free, but I'm still looking outside, thinking that people are having more fun. Will this go away? Yeah, it will. That's a question that I get a lot now that it's nice out. People want to know, is nice weather a trigger for me? And like, will that feeling ever go away? It definitely will. Because eventually you realize like they're just sitting around doing nothing. They're just having like the same repetitive conversation. And any time is a good time to drink. It doesn't matter if it's a bank holiday or the weather's nice or the weather's cold or it's raining or it's a Wednesday or a Saturday or it's Sunday fun day. Like, it literally doesn't matter. It's all a great time to drink in our minds. So once you kind of realize that, it becomes a bit easier. And eventually, as you fill your life with more and more things that you enjoy and you see the positives of sobriety and the consequences that you are seeing go away, you're not going to want to go back to that. You can look at people who are drinking alcohol outside and think like, oh, I wish I could do that. And I think that way too. But then I remember like all the bad stuff that comes with it, and I'm good. So it will go away with more experience, and I'm really glad that you did not drink over the bank weekend. I know that that's a trigger. 28 days alcohol-free today. Congratulations. All of a sudden, I am so tired. Yes, I have an episode. It's one of my most popular ones, actually. Episode 33 of my podcast is literally called Why Are You So Tired in Early Sobriety? And I explain why. It's a really interesting one, and it has to do with like how our brains got used to running on alcohol for fuel. So I hope you'll check that out. That will pass, but that is episode 33 of my podcast. So I hope you'll find 15 minutes to go listen to that one. Had a huge work rejection at day 75. I'm sorry, work was a major trigger for me, so I feel that. I pulled myself right back out, good, as I've seen the amazing benefits. Work, like I said, huge trigger for me. Like, the only times I've ever felt a strong urge to drink were because of work-related triggers. So you're not alone. I think what helped me, obviously getting out of my toxic work environment, but it was also my perspective, and I was contributing to my own frustration because everything was such a big deal for me. Like, I took things really personally, and I had buttons and sensitive spots that were getting pushed all the time at work, and I'm still working on those. I'm still a work in progress, but work is a big trigger for a lot of people, so you are not alone in that, and I'm glad that you didn't use your little blip as like justification to just keep it going. So good for you. Any other questions, please let me know. I've hit a wall. I've been sober for a while, on and off, and then I go back to it. I can't moderate, can I? Nope, you can't. Just from that one sentence, I know that you can't moderate. People that can moderate don't have to try. They don't have to like wonder if they can moderate or not. They just do. My most recent podcast episode is 15 moderation strategies that I tried to get control of my drinking that didn't work. So if you want to have a laugh, you've probably done some of them too, because it's a list of 15 different ways I tried to moderate. So I would check that out. But every time my brain tells me that it's been long enough and I can probably moderate, I use that as a reason why I definitely can't moderate. Because if we could moderate, we wouldn't have to think about it. We wouldn't have to talk ourselves into it. So I'm telling you, you can't freaking moderate. You can't. You can't do it. So don't forget it. Any other questions? Boredom is a trigger for me. Any suggestions? So I did take a survey back in September because I just wanted to know like what everybody was struggling with, what I could help you with. And boredom was the biggest trigger that I found in the survey. People were saying it over and over and over and over that boredom was triggering them. So you are not alone in that trigger. Episode 135 of my, or 134 I think, of my podcast is all about how to cope with boredom. And it's really interesting because some people are more prone to boredom than others just because the way that your brain works. And if you're more prone to boredom, you're more likely to struggle with alcohol because you need to enhance your experience. I also have a couple episodes about why we run to alcohol to enhance things. I think it's episode 103. So that's 134 on boredom and then 103 on enhancement. But what helped me is to not watch TV, because TV is really boring if you do it for hours and hours and hours. So doing something else and actually trying new hobbies and getting some interests outside of drinking and TV were what helped. So I would just say give some new hobbies a chance and try to get away from the TV, because you're going to want to enhance it with alcohol. I can moderate, but I still find that completely being sober is way better. I'm very happy to hear that, and I've heard that from a lot of people, that a lot of people can moderate with like a lot of effort, and it's just eventually it's not worth it to them anymore. So sober is always better. Like anyone in the world would benefit from not drinking. There are zero benefits to alcohol. Any other questions that you guys have, let me know. I've never vacationed sober. Any tips for my upcoming vacation? I did a video on my YouTube channel about my first vacation sober. So if you go to YouTube and you search Sober Powered, you'll see, and I show you like parts of my cruise that I went on. I was really nervous about vacationing too, and you're gonna hype yourself up more than you have to, because we worry about things a lot more than we actually need to. But I would plan. Don't just show up and like hope that you find things to do. I would make a plan so you know, like on Monday I'm gonna do whatever. On Tuesday I'm gonna do this. This is where I'm gonna eat dinner. Like really plan as much of it out as you can. And any downtime, like research what there is to do. Like I cruise a lot, so I made sure the ship that I went on had a lot of activities, so I wouldn't just be sitting around. But I hope that you see that sober vacationing is so fun. Okay. Do emotions balance out eventually? Often I will have days or weeks where I'm blinded by negative emotions. Yes, totally normal. You will even out eventually. Heavy drinking, one of the ways that it changes the brain is it makes us less able to regulate our emotions. Episode 83 of my podcast is what to expect emotionally in the first 90 days of sobriety. And I made that because like there's a lot of unexpected emotions that come up. There's a lot of anger and anxiety and just like rage and all these horrible feelings that pop up. And a lot of it too is because we've never dealt with anything before and we're used to just stuffing it down. And now that we're not drinking alcohol, our feelings can actually exist. So they're going to exist and let you know that they're there. But it does balance out the more that you deal with them and the more that you learn coping skills. And this was also why in my membership community, I did a whole workshop last week all about learning coping skills and how to get started in that. So the episode on emotions is episode 83, if you want to check that one out. 2 days no alcohol, that's fantastic. I'm proud of you. Keep going. Okay, any other questions that I can answer for you guys? I've been thinking about starting a podcast. At what point in your journey did you start yours? So when I finally accepted 3.5 years ago that I couldn't moderate my drinking, I wanted to understand, like, is this my fault? Is there something wrong with me? Am I a weak person? Did I choose this? Like, the whole thing. And once I recovered from my like crippling hangover on day 1, I started learning about it. So I was working as a biochemist back then. So I have a science background. So I just started educating myself on like what's going on in the brain when we drink alcohol and why do some people get addicted and other people don't. So I started that at day 2, and it was really helping me with my shame. And around 8 months sober, I remember I woke up, and maybe you're having this feeling too. I woke up and I thought, like, everybody needs to know this information. It was helping me so much to understand, like, why I had 3 a.m. anxiety and why alcohol made me more depressed and why I was feeling angry now that I stopped drinking, and that I just wanted to share it with everyone so that other people could know what was going on. And I just started mine that day. So I think you should definitely do it. I think that you should have realistic expectations about podcasting because it's really hard. I can tell people all day, episode whatever is literally the information that you're asking for in a 15-minute episode, and they'll never listen to it unless like some random stranger tells them to listen to it. So it's really hard to promote your podcast and actually get people to give it a chance. So I would have realistic expectations on what growing a show looks like, but it's very rewarding, and it's also really great accountability because I know that every Friday morning there are people that are in their app looking for a new episode. So I feel like I really want to keep going with my sobriety and keep learning so that I can keep making my weekly episodes. So I would say just go for it if you really want to do it. Feelings are raw, and I'm having to deal with them head on. Yes. So what helped me was to go to therapy. So I don't know if you're in therapy, but that was the most helpful thing for me because we're too close to our own experience. So whether that's therapy for you or working with a sponsor or joining a community, just some discussion with other people who either get it because of personal experience or they get it because they're trained to get it. That is really helpful, and it's important to understand like where the feelings are coming from because they're not just random feelings that pop up for no reason, even though it does feel that way in the beginning, but there is something behind the feeling. So again, that's episode 83 of my podcast where I talk all about feelings. Any other questions before I get going? My podcast is called Sober Powered. Same thing as my username, Sober Powered. I am on the cover, so you recognize it when you search it. I am 28 days sober. Amazing. I see many changes in how I feel, but I also experienced tiredness and was hoping that my skin would improve by now. It might take time for your skin to improve. I also talked about skin on my podcast, but tiredness and why that happens like so long into early sobriety was episode 33, so don't forget, guys. But skin, that one is something that you don't expect. I've never had acne. That's never been a problem for me, thankfully. But in my first 6 months of sobriety, I had a lot of acne, and I had never struggled with it before, and it was really frustrating because it lasted a long time. Like I said, it lasted almost 6 months. That might not be your experience, but that was mine. And that's just because alcohol messes with our hormones and it makes them imbalanced. And in sobriety, it takes time for your body to balance itself out and learn how to regulate itself without alcohol being there all the time. Because alcohol is a chemical and it does things to the body. So as we expose our brain and our body to alcohol over a very long period of time, like years regularly, the body adapts and compensates for it. So it has to adapt back to how it was before. So your skin will improve. It's just you're having a delay because your hormones are balancing back out. So I would see it that way. The tiredness also will go away. And I explain this in like a lot more detail in episode 33, but your brain learns to use alcohol for fuel. And then you remove the fuel source, alcohol, and it has to relearn how to run on glucose for fuel. So that will bounce back out. Do you miss the flavor of your favorite drink? What a question. That is a good one. Or did drinking have nothing to do with the flavor? I loved the flavor, actually, of all alcohol, except gin, because gross. But I loved the flavor of all alcohol. I thought it tasted amazing. I was a wine drinker mostly, and I loved the taste. And that was a big part of why it was so hard for me to stop, because I genuinely enjoyed the taste. So I wanted to learn to moderate so I could still keep the wine in my life. So that was hard for me. And my birthday is coming up next month, and my husband and I have been talking about, like, where do you want to go for your birthday? And one restaurant came up, but I know they have this really good bottle of wine that I loved. And I don't want to go there because, like, I just don't want to feel that. So that has been hard for me, because I did really, partially why I drank was because I did genuinely enjoy the taste. So most people will say they hate the taste and, like, everybody hates the way alcohol tastes. That's not always true. I have another episode on that topic too. So anything you're wondering, I've probably made an episode on it. I have 150 episodes. So if you scroll my catalog, you can find some science about whatever it is you're wondering. Since you have a science background, can you explain why at the end of my alcoholism I had rapid weight gain? I don't know your exact situation, and I'm not a doctor, but alcohol slows down fat metabolism. That I explained in episode 34. I have an episode for everything. But what happens is alcohol, your body views it as a poison, and it wants to eliminate it immediately. So that's going to take priority over everything else. So your body's going to keep doing the things that it needs, like, to survive and to function, but things that are not essential for keeping you alive, like burning fat or like digesting the things that you ate well, are going to be deprioritized. So that's why a lot of people will struggle to lose weight, or they'll gain weight. But without knowing your exact situation, I can't say more than that. Hello, and thank you for your podcast. I love the research. I'm close to 2 years alcohol-free. That is amazing. Congratulations. And your podcast has helped me so much. Thank you for listening. And congratulations on almost 2 years. Let's see. Any other questions? Last call for questions before I get off. And I'll put all the episodes that I recommended in the caption for this, if I can keep them in my head, what I recommended. But thank you guys for joining me. I will be live every Monday, chatting with you, answering questions. So I hope to see you next Monday, and make sure you keep up with me in my stories. Instagram likes to hide my stuff from people who follow me, so hopefully you see my stuff. Not a lot of people do. What do you think about smoking weed and sobriety? I think that's a good use of the term alcohol-free. I think that's one reason that term exists and it's helpful. For me personally, I think that sober is like fully sober from mind-altering things. But if you smoke marijuana and that's like not an issue for you, that's why alcohol-free is such a useful term. But I hope that helps. And I will talk to you guys in my stories, and I'll talk to you next Monday. Make sure you check out my podcast, and have a great rest of your day.